Greetings, and welcome back to LA Quill. Today we're diving into part 1 of chapter 26 of Arianna's tale. Tarius just looked at her in disbelief. She had explained how the waters were trapped in the crystal, the Sirius Stone, and that everyone was going to die if they didn't get that crystal. She had stopped short of asking for his help. He needed time to absorb. As it was, he rather looked like she'd hit him with a board. "All right," he said after several moments. "I've met quite a few mages in the past 3 years. Not one of them is capable of that." He didn't think he could believe this. It was just too much to take in. To be told that everything he'd been raised to believe was a lie, except for the fact that the Imperials kept slaves, that was the only thing that actually matched what he'd been taught as a child. "I know. But this was a long time ago, well before we were born. Maybe mages were stronger back then?" She shrugged. "I don't know the explanation, but it did happen." She seemed so certain, as if it didn't even occur to her to doubt it. Tarius put his hand to his temple, closing his eyes. This was a lot to wrap his mind around. Finally, he looked at her. "Why are you telling me all this?" "Because I need your help." She waited for a reaction. He had no idea how he could help, but he was immediately suspicious. Saying nothing, he kept his eyes trained on her face. "Actually, it's Darian's help I need," Arianna continued. "As Cadfael's son, he has the run of the palace, correct? He can go places you cannot." She waited for his nod. "I need him to find this crystal, get it, and send it to me. It probably won't be nearly that simple, but you two are clever enough to sort it out. I was hoping you'd approach Darian about it." He was silent for several moments as he contemplated the situation. "Why don't you ask Darian yourself?" "Because he is very angry right now. He won't listen. Darian has a one-track mind, and he would be more likely to yell at me than to even hear what I was trying to tell him." She sighed. "And I doubt he'd do anything to help Damuk." "There's no doubt at all," Tarius said with certainty. "If you tell Darian what you told me, he will take you, regardless of the risks or your own feelings, and leave them to their fate. He'd even revel in it. Damuk would stop him from taking me, but I agree with you." She shifted in her seat to get more comfortable. What she really wanted to do was sleep, but she had other things to think about right now. "You can understand why I asked you instead of my brother." She made it a question, but she already knew the answer. Tarius nodded. He understood all too well how Darian would react. His friend was impossible to reason with when he was angry, and Darian was furious right now. With his sister, with Damuk, but mostly with himself. "Will you help me?" Arianna asked. "Is this what you really want?" She nodded, and he could tell she meant it. "Then I will talk to Darian, after he has cooled down a bit, which probably won't happen as long as you're around. I will try to get him to do as you ask." He smiled a bit. "Maybe I'll point out that if he doesn't, he'll never get to see his little niece or nephew." He decided to believe what she was telling him. This was little Ari. She wouldn't lie to him, not even for the man she loved. And he didn't think that Damuk would have lied to her. He seemed just as taken with her as she was with him. Arianna rose to hug him. He returned her embrace. "If Damuk has anything to say about it, it will be a nephew." She laughed and pulled back a bit. "Thank you, Tarius. You are a great friend." He only smiled, hoping that he was doing the right thing. Darian hit the ground hard enough for the wind to be knocked out of him. He'd attacked the Crown Prince out of justifiable anger, but it didn't take him long to realize it just might have been a mistake. This man was not only larger and stronger, but had battle experience. The duels Darian had fought at court hardly prepared him to face a battle-hardened warrior. The blows Darian had taken proved that Damuk could have killed him if he'd really wanted to. He was just about to get up when he heard Damuk's voice. "Stay there if you know what's good for you. I promised your sister I wouldn't hurt you, but you are sorely testing my patience. Push me too far, and I may just forget my promise." Damuk watched the young man think about it and consciously resisted the urge to laugh. He didn't want to hurt his future brother-in-law's feelings by mocking his ability to defend himself, not when it was Arianna who might take offense. Though it was funny. He could tell Arianna's brother had no real experience in combat. Darian was a court dandy, not a soldier. Darian rose to his feet slowly, using a nearby boulder to steady himself. His ears were ringing just a bit. They had come to the edge of the mountains, just a little north of the gully, supposedly to talk as future brothers-in-law. Now Darian desperately wanted to kill this man who had defiled his sister. He only had his small knife, however, still clutched in his right hand. The prince before him hadn't even bothered to disarm him, probably because Darian presented no real threat to the imperial prince. That, too, stung his pride. "Don't do it," Damuk warned, seeing that Darian was thinking about launching yet another attack against him. "You really have no cause to, anyway. Not anymore." "No cause," Darian yelled. "You attacked my sister. I'm aware of what I've done," Damuk snapped, his patience about to evaporate. "But your sister has made her choice." He hesitated. "If she wanted to go with you, I would let her." Darian snorted in disbelief. "You'd give up your little slave so easily." "No," Damuk replied immediately. "I own my slaves. I don't just give them up. Not unless I want to, and not without appropriate compensation. They have no right to choose. A slave I would keep, regardless of her wishes." "But you just said—" Darian was a little confused now. "Arianna is not my slave. She is my betrothed. She will marry me and bear my children. And she does this because she chooses to." He continued through Darian's protests. "I will admit that this was not always the case. When I first brought her to the desert, she wasn't exactly willing. But that has changed." "Has it?" Darian asked, suspicious. Damuk shrugged. "You can ask her if you choose, though she already told you as much, as I recall." "I think I will," Darian responded, ignoring Damuk's last sentence as unimportant. Actually, he was ignoring most of what the other man was saying. It was easier that way. Damuk would have said more, but suddenly they heard a small sound, like the tiniest of barks. They moved towards the sound, Darian with his knife ready, Damuk with no weapon drawn. As they rounded the nearest boulder, Darian jumped back. It was a wolf, but a larger wolf than any he had ever seen. It was probably twice the size of the largest forest wolf, and it was a deep brown instead of the smoky gray he was used to. It had been caught in a recent landslide and was half buried under the rocks. It had probably been there 2 days at least, and was slowly dying from thirst. The mangled thing whined pitifully. Damuk approached the wolf slowly. He could tell that it was a female from the shape of its muzzle. It looked as if she was about breeding age. It was a shame, really, since desert wolves were an important part of their ecosystem, and the death of one breeding female could affect the area greatly for several years to come. Seeing the pain the wolf was in, he drew his knife from its sheath. "What are you doing?" Darian asked, suspicious. "What I have to," Damuk replied. "The poor thing can't be saved. If I don't kill her now, she'll die slowly from dehydration. She's dying now." He moved closer to the wolf, who only looked at him with pain-filled eyes. Kneeling, he placed the edge of his knife along the throat of the animal, preparing to strike. Before he could deliver the final blow, he heard faint running behind him and turned quickly, knife at the ready. Arianna flung herself to her knees beside him, and he only barely managed to turn his dagger away from her in time. "What are you doing?" she asked, alarmed. She was unaware of just how much like her brother she sounded. She looked at the wolf with pity and couldn't believe her betrothed just meant to kill it. Damuk's gaze softened at the apprehension in her eyes. "Sweetheart, the wolf is dying. It's better this way." He glanced up and saw that both Tarius and Myron had arrived as well. "Let me help her. Maybe we can save her." There were tears spiking her lashes now. She knew she had to try to save the wolf, but she didn't think she could do it alone. Damuk sighed and sheathed his knife, knowing that he couldn't ignore such a heart-wrenching request. And if she dies anyway, there was a distinct possibility, even if they could free her from the rocks. "At least I'll know I tried." She smiled up at him. Until this very moment, she hadn't realized that he would deny her nothing. It was a heady feeling, to know that someone cared that much. Maybe he hadn't said he loved her, but he showed it. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he rose and turned to the soldier standing just behind Tarius. "Myron, fetch the herb box from my tent." And that's our tale from L.A. Quill today. If you enjoyed this chapter, let me know your favorite moment in the comments. Until next time, may your stories always be magical.